It's too loud?
Yeah.
Is,
No, he likes it. Okay.
Leave it alone.
It just.
is it too loud? How many would say it's too loud? Is it too loud now? Okay, I won't shout. All right. So, while it might be easier than ever to find someone to fall in love with, given the unspoken rules of love in our culture, it's nearly impossible to stay in love with that person. We quickly pick up on how it works. Do unto others what they deserve. Do unto others as they do unto you. Do unto others as your mood would have it. Do unto others so they'll see things your way. Do unto others until you wear them down and then they agree to your demands. No wonder so many couples are just surviving in their relationships if they're staying together at all. Add to that our super high expectations, our super long list of personal needs that have to get met by our partners, our super low tolerance for disappointment, our super quick willingness to dump a relationship that isn't working and start over with somebody else. And most of us find ourselves not really equipped to sustain the kind of last forever romantic relationship that we all want. The odds are pretty much stacked against us. Fortunately, there's an ancient book called the Bible that has so much to say about the here and the now, so much practical relevance to everything in our lives today, including our relationships. It has so much to show us, so much to tell us about building the right foundation for love relationships that endure. And that's what we're going to be exploring in the couple of weeks ahead. So as we look at these guidelines for enduring relationships, don't take my word for it. Find some other couples who are happily married today after 15, 20, 30 years or more. I know they can be hard to find sometimes, but if you do find them, ask them about it. Let them tell you about the choices they made, how they worked through their marriage difficulties, what they learned about being better people, and what they learned all along the way. And I think that you're going to discover that what they tell you only reinforces the good things that we're going to be looking for together. So you ready to go?
Amen.
Huh? Are you ready to go? Wow, your enthusiasm lacks enthusiasm. Okay. All right. We're going to watch the video. Make sure you take notes. All you latecomers, did you all get lessons? Latecomers, do you know who you are? Did you all get it? Everyone got lessons? Okay. Roll that video, Maestro. Probably have to unmute it.
Now, we need to spend about 10 seconds talking about falling in love, and that's all it really requires is 10 seconds. Because the only requirement for falling in love is a pulse, right? I mean, if you have a pulse, you can fall in love. Some of you are in love with people you've never met. They're on TV, and you're just in love. You just stare at them, and I'm so in love with him. I'm so in love with her. I mean, she reads the news, and you're in love with her, you know. So anyway, so it just doesn't, in fact, as we've already talked about, there are 1,500 organizations in this country. 1,500. That if you pay them your money and give them a profile, they will connect you with somebody with a similar profile. It is, and you may not believe this, it has never been easier to fall in love. It has never been easier to connect with a broader number of people because of media, because of social networking. It has never been easier to fall in love, but I would argue, and I bet you would agree, it's never been more difficult to stay in love. And yet that's what we want. And we somehow think it's possible. And we keep looking around thinking maybe we're going to find the one. Because there's something in you and there's something in me that wants to finish life and do life with that special someone. We don't want to just be in a relationship. We don't want to just survive the years. We want to be in love. But it's getting more and more difficult. There's several reasons why it's so difficult. And none of this is new information. Part of it's what you saw growing up, right? Part of it's what you experience. The truth is, very few people have ever been around a healthy, romantic, marriage, couple relationship. Most people have never seen one. I mean, seen one like tracked with it over a period of years, having grown up in a home where your parents, were on the same page and had the kind of relationship you wanted to have one day. Very few people have ever even seen it. So consequently, what's modeled for us and the law of relationship and the rules of relationship are so wrong, and yet they're the very ones we adopt, that it makes it almost impossible for us to stay in love. I mean, here's what a lot of us grew up with. Do unto others as they deserve to be done unto, right? Do unto others as they do unto you. Isn't that it? Do unto others as your mood would have it. Do unto others so as to get them to see things your way. Do unto others until you wear them down and get your way. Do unto others until you're ready to leave. I mean, as you think about the relationships you've tracked with either your friends in the office or your cousins or maybe even your parents, or, when we look at relationships, people may stay together, but they're not in love, you assume. They're not what you want. They're just kind of surviving if they even stay together at all. So consequently, because of what most of us see growing up, and what most of us have had modeled for us, I mean, we're just completely ill-equipped. We've never seen one. And yet, all of us think one's possible. And we think we're candidates for that kind of relationship. The other thing that makes it difficult is what we felt growing up. Now, a bunch of smart guys got together, men and women actually, and they came up with a list. This is kind of overwhelming. A list of what it takes for a child to grow up in a very, very nurturing environment and to leave adolescence and to be equipped to engage in healthy relationships in the future. In other words, here's what it would take to be fully emotionally, and in 2 weeks we're going to talk about emotions specifically, so hang in there. To be emotionally equipped to engage in long-term relationship, here's all it takes. You need to grow up in a home where you get respect, and this is like massive doses of all of this. Respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. Sounds like the family you grew up in, doesn't it? You're going to get constant respect, encouragement, comfort, security. Everybody's there, nobody's leaving. Support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. Now, if that's what it takes over a long period of time to equip us to engage in long-term relationships as an adult, I mean, if that's what we felt, if that's what we need to have felt growing up, I mean, what are the odds of us being able to maintain a forever and happily ever after kind of relationship, especially when we connect with and meet people who didn't grow up getting that kind of stuff either? So consequently, what happens for most of us is we come into adulthood looking for someone from which we can get respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection. And I fall in love with you, but now that we're both in love with each other, I'm wondering, are you going to give me respect, encouragement, comfort, security, support, acceptance, approval, appreciation, attention, and affection, or are you just cute? Or do you just have a good job? Because once we're in love with each other, what begins as a hug around the neck becomes a stranglehold. Give me affection, comfort, security, love. I gotta have it. Because I came into this thing with a deficit. I've been malnutritioned in terms of love and affection and all that stuff. And I'm going to squeeze it out of you, and you're going to squeeze it out of me. And I just wonder why I don't think you're so cute anymore. And that car, so what, And all of a sudden, the things that just, created this emotional energy where we couldn't stay away from each other, somehow it starts to go away. Part of what makes it so hard is what we have felt and haven't felt. And here's just a disturbing statistic, and this has been true for years. This is this year's statistic, but it's been this way for years. 40% of the children born in this country this year will be born into homes where there's no dad. 40%. There will be no stable male influence at all. 40%. Now, we can argue all day long about single moms and nurturing and all that stuff, and I'm not here to try to make a statement. I'm just telling you. If it takes all of that to equip someone to engage relationally and stay engaged relationally and be a healthy relationship, and 40% of the babies born in our country will never have a meaningful relationship with their father at all, I'm just telling you, they're going to struggle. There's a deficit, and it's not their fault any more than it's probably your fault. But it's the reality. And yet, you're equipped to fall in love. But I think in terms of what's been modeled and what we've felt, many of us are not equipped to stay in love. And then there's another thing that makes this really, really difficult. Our culture, and you know this, none of this is new information, our culture has a really low threshold of pain relationally. A really low relational threshold for pain, which means it doesn't have to hurt too bad, and we decide to get out. Right? Gone are the days where I said I do, and I do means I do, and I'm going to keep doing whether I like it or not, and whether she or he likes it or not, we're just doing. I do, and we do. That's what we do. That day's gone, right? That it just doesn't take a lot of pain. And plus, in our culture, the message you and I get every single day, and maybe you think this is true, and we can talk about that later. The message we get every single day is if you're not happy in your current relationship, it's because you're with the wrong person. You chose poorly. You need to re-choose, you need to reboot, you need to get out, you need to start over. Because you chose poorly. And if you'll just keep looking, you'll find that soulmate. And if you'll keep moving from relationship to relationship, eventually it's going to happen to you because you're finally going to meet the right person. But if you talk to people who've been married 20 years plus, who are still in love, and ask them about that approach, they will tell you there were times along the way these 20 years that I wondered if I had the right person. But I decided that the person I chose was going to be the right person. And we're so glad we worked through those difficulties. Because choosing the right person is part of it. But learning to be and to become the right person is the other part of it. And it's the part of it that we get no help from. No help for, I should say. From culture. And from the world around us. Now, so if we just stop there, odds are, you may want to finish with somebody, and you may want to stay in love forever. You may want your current relationship to, become more about in love than just surviving life. You may want it to be that way. But I'm telling you, the odds are against you. The odds are against me. It may be possible. It is not probable. Aren't you glad we don't close in prayer there? Send you home, encouraged. Now, here's the thing. Look up here. This is so important, okay? This is so important. Into that chaos that all of us can relate to. I mean, we've all been dinged up and hurt and got stories, whether it's your parents or your previous marriage or you're watching one of your kids go through something. Into all of that chaos, Jesus speaks. 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, he's with his guys, and he gives us the foundation for enduring relationships. He gives us the foundation for enduring love relationships. I think it's the foundation for enduring romantic love, in love, can't wait to get home in the afternoon, can't wait to hear the garage door open, kind of relationships. And it's so simple. It's so counterintuitive. It's so not a part of the way we normally think. It is a paradigm shift. It's readjusting north on your relational compass. But it's so simple that even when I say it, it's kind of like, ooh, yeah, I heard that before. Now, give me something rich. Give me something practical. Andy, I've got her here. Now, come on, work on her. Come on, she's here, buddy. This is your big chance, okay? She didn't want to come because she's, because come on. I got him here, he told me to bring the CD home. I'm bringing the CD home. So this is it, we're hanging by a thread. I'm telling you, but again, don't take my word for it. Just find the people, if you can find them, who you look at their marriage and you go, that's where I want to be when I'm that age. That's what I want going on in my relationship next time I have one or in my current relationship. And here's what you're going to find. This is so simple. It's so powerful. It's so rare. It's so accessible. It's so available. If two people will simply accept this basic teaching of Jesus. This is in John chapter 13, verse 34. We're just looking at one verse from Jesus. One more verse in just a minute. Here's what he says. He's got his guys together, and he says, a new command I give you. Those guys, you got the 10 Commandments, and you got 700 other, Old Testament laws to support the 10 Commandments. I'm going to give you a new one. And when I tell you what it is, it's not even really that new. And the little Greek word for new can mean other things, and I'm wondering if maybe it means something else. Because the word can mean extraordinary. It can also mean hidden and recently discovered. It can mean remarkable. Maybe he's saying, I'm going to give you a remarkable command. It's so remarkable that you're going to be unimpressed, but if you sit on it for a while, you'll realize this is a remarkable command. And here's his command. Love one another. Oh, man, you should have studied harder. Is that it? But listen to what Jesus does, and it'll slip right by you if you're not careful. Jesus takes a word that we normally use as a noun, and he makes it a verb. It's an imperative. It's a command. He says, look, guys, here's the deal. I want you to go and love one another. I know love is something you fall into like a pool and out of like a high chair. I mean, I realize love is like a noun, okay? But I'm making it a verb. I want you to love one another, which means Jesus would not have been a very good marriage counselor, probably, a relationship counselor, a couple counselor, because you have gone to him and said, she does this and she does that, and she does this and she does that. And Jesus would look at you and say, well, are you loving her? Well, I used to. No, you don't used to. You used to noun. You don't use to verb. Are you loving her? Well, so here's what I want y'all to do. We'll fix your relationship. I want you, and I want y'all to go home, and I want you to love each other. But we don't love each other. Well, you ought to. You're married. But we don't. No. You're confusing noun and verb. You're saying you're not feeling it. I want to help you feel it. You got to do it, and then you feel it. You see, your relationship started off feeling it, you know? And then the feeling went away, and you're trying to get the feeling back, and you're thinking the only way to get the feeling back is to meet somebody new, because let's see, when did I feel the most in love? Oh, when I met that new person. I think I'll go meet a new person to get the feeling back. Jesus says, no, here's how it works. If you want to maintain it, if you want to foster it, if you want to, blow on that flame, then you need to quit treating love like a noun, and you need to treat it like a verb. And I want you to go home, and I want you to love one another. See, here's kind of the bottom line. This is just the beginning. We're 4 weeks going, okay? This is just the beginning. The foundation for staying in love is to make love. Pause. A verb. But now you'll remember it, right? Listen, in fact, let's just say that together because it's just fun to say in church, okay? Really, the foundation for long-term in-love relationship is making love a verb. You've got to make love a verb. And the goal isn't to recapture a feeling. Listen, in the relationship, the feeling is the caboose of the train. It ain't the engine. It starts off as the engine. I understand that. But then it goes to the back of the train and it becomes the caboose. In fact, I'll tell you something I'm not going to tell anybody else, and I don't want this to leave the room, okay? The more you make love of her, the more you'll make love. But you didn't hear that from me, okay? Now, here's what he says. He says, I want you to learn how to actively love one another. Love is something you do. And when two people who at some point have been in love, or who are in love, we're going to talk for 4 weeks, so don't say, hey, tell me what to do, we're going to get there. When they actively love one another, guess what it does? It rekindles and continues to kindle and inflame and enrich and make better the in-love part of the relationship. But you have to love one another. It's a command, love one another. But he doesn't stop there. And maybe this is the new part of the command. Listen to the rest of the verse. New command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. In other words, he says, I don't want you to take your cue from culture. Although there's some things that can be redeemed from culture relationally, it's not all bad. I don't want you to necessarily take your cue from your parents. I mean, may have survived. But if you look at their relationship and they just, finally dad moved upstairs and they've got 2 kitchens and they're in the same house. But I mean, he'd rather go on vacation with, the dog than take your mom. Or, they're together, but it's not what you want. Maybe you don't need to take your cue from your parents about what it means to love one another. And maybe you shouldn't take your cue from your parents-in-law or your fiance's parents or, this person you're in love with's parents. I mean, I don't know where you take your cues from, but Jesus says, for sure. When you think about what does it mean to love like a verb, I want you to take your cue from me. And if you'll allow me to, I will teach you how to love. Not how to be in love. You've got a pulse. You're good. I want to teach you how to stay in love. But if it's going to happen, love must be a verb, not just a noun. To stay in love, you've got to make love a verb. Now, okay, with you, tracking with you. Later on, years later, the Apostle Paul comes along, takes the same idea and says it in a different way, except he uses a bad word. I mean, this is bad words, a word we don't like. He uses a word that's actually gotten Christians in a lot of trouble, but it's unnecessary because the word is so offensive that we kind of discount everything he says about this. But the Apostle Paul takes the very idea Jesus said, and he just uses a different word than love, and it's a word that sticks a little harder, and it's a little bit more of a, oh, I don't know about that. But I'm telling you, it's the very same thing, and it's an extraordinarily powerful word that helps illustrate what Jesus meant when he said, love one another. Here's how the Apostle Paul said it. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. Just going to look at this verse. Ephesians 5:21. Here's what he said. Ready for? Here starts off with the bad word. Submit to one another. And then here's the Jesus part again. Out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Do you know what that means? It's the same as love one another, except it's just got a barb on it. And here's what it means. Paul said, then right after this, we're not going to look at it today. Right after this, Paul begins to talk about men and women's relationship and husbands and wives. He goes right into it. He says the bottom line, the foundation, the starting block for people who are going to stay in love is mutual submission. Mutual submission. Mutual submission means I say, you know what, in our relationship, you're the priority. And you say, no, Andy, in our relationship, you're the priority. I go, no. In our relationship, you're the priority. No. Gomer, you're the priority. No, you're the priority. In other words, the big conflict in the relationship is who's going to be first, who's going to take priority. And, I'm saying it's you and you're saying it's me. That's mutual submission. Let me just tell you, I don't know if you've ever seen that in a marriage. I don't know if you've ever seen that between a man and a woman or between people in love. But I want to tell you something. When you see it, it's powerful. It is rare because it's scary. Because somebody has to go first. Somebody has to say, you know what? You're the priority in this relationship. And even if you don't make me the priority, I'm making you the priority in the relationship. When two people get that going on, I'm telling you, love is alive and well in that relationship. It's so rare. Very few of us listening to this message have ever seen it. But when you see it, you go, that is what I want. Paul says, this is what Jesus was talking about. Mutual submission. You first. No, you first. No, you first. No, you. Now, you may never go in the building because you'll be holding the door for the rest of your life, but it's okay. You first. No, you first. No, yeah, we're gonna talk about this a lot in the next few weeks. But that's the beginning. That's the foundation. Love, actively, verb one another. Specifically, submit. Submit means you place yourself under the other person. Not because by birth order or by financial status or some other caste system you're not as important. That's not it at all, as we're going to see next week. It's a choice you make. It's a choice you make. It's a decision you make, regardless of who I am and what I had and what I brought into the marriage and who I'm related to and whatever else. I am choosing to place myself under you as you choose to place yourself under me. You say, Andy, that doesn't even make sense. I know it doesn't really make sense, but I'm telling you what. When you experience it, when you see it, when you watch one of those, when you get into one of those, that's the foundation for staying in love. Not simply staying married, staying in love.
Ooh, you're speechless. If you know me, if you've been coming to Fusion for any period of time, you know that I've been saying for a long time, love is not a feeling, it's a decision.
Amen.
And it's a feeling at first, because you got that pulse. But it becomes a decision. So it's kind of nice to hear reinforcement from Andy Stanley. If you don't know who that is, Andy Stanley is a pretty powerful, impactful person out there. Pastor Andy Stanley. And the second thing that I think is a great reinforcement of something that if you've come to me for counseling, you've probably heard it. And I always tell you, you be the better person. You be the best person, be the best man of God, be the best woman of God that you can possibly be, because someone always has to be the better person. Even if you're wrong, be the better person. And eventually, if you're living with somebody with pulse, then they have to understand that you're making an effort. And most of us, being good-willed people, will get to the point where it's like, I cannot continue to be this way when that other person is totally submitting. Anybody else need a worksheet while we're waiting? You guys need a worksheet? Can we get a worksheet? Anybody else? No? it's not all about you, Margo. It's not all about you.
Oh, shucks.
All right, so if you notice, and you'll notice this through all 4 sessions, Frank is over on the other side over there, and then Hector Gonzalez. Oh, you got him? You're just waving at someone? That's very nice. So you'll notice at the top of your worksheets, I'm leaving you some space to take some video notes. I know it's a little bit dark. Next week we'll try to have at least one light on so you can see, but if you want to take notes, be my guest. And then when we get later into the lesson, I'll explain some other things. But let's just go to that first question. And, wow. So if a teenager came up to you and asked you that question, how possible is it to stay happy together forever? How would you answer that? And then what reasons would you give for your answer? And how different is that from the way that you might have answered that, say, 5 years ago? I know you're like, what? Can you repeat the question? Let's just start with the first one, okay? If a teenager came up to you and asked you how possible is it for 2 people to stay happy together forever, how would you answer them?
Yes.
Yes.
I would tell the teenager to love one another, make the other person a priority. And it would differ from 5 years ago, because 5 years ago it was all about me and what can you do for me, versus long-term and making the other person a priority.
Okay, but Rosie, I don't want to hear all that. I just want to know, is it possible for 2 people to stay in love forever?
Yes, as long as you're not selfish.
And of course, the teenager asked it, rolled their eyes and got up like that. What were you going to say, Frank? Yes, Marco, it's all about you now. Yes. What she said?
Basically, you need to show your love, not just say I love you, but you need to do acts of love. I mean, and it doesn't have to be big things, little things that show them that you care, that they're important to you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Jim.
I'd say it is possible, but it's very difficult and it takes a lot of hard work, and you can't be selfish. Teenagers are selfish, they're all about them.
Well, especially, no offense to the younger people out there, but that generation is, they're me generations. It's all about what, I mean, don't take, just call them spade a spade, it is what it is. You guys are all about you, it's all about your time and your money and I get that. It's just not going to work for you. It's going to work for you up to a certain point, and then you're going to be sincerely disappointed that the world is not attentive to your needs. So, Mr. Robles, I saw your hand up.
Well, at first I felt that teenagers want me to fluff her and want the truth. And I tell them it's impossible to be happy forever. You're not going to be happy with your spouse forever. You're going to be mad, cheat off, lots of fun. But you'll still be together. But you can't be happy together forever. That's impossible. I mean,
You can't be happy all the time.
all the time.
You can be happy together forever. You can stay happy. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the reality of it is, without fluffing it up, as you would say, there's going to be times where you get in disagreements, and it's only human. I mean, I don't want to give you the impression at any point that you should be able to go through your relationship without any problems, because if you don't argue, the only thing that I would tell you is you don't communicate enough to argue. Because it's like, if you have nothing to argue about, it means that you are not communicating at a deeper level, because if you were, you are 2 different people. You should disagree on things. That's what makes you an individual. And now some of you might come back and go, oh yeah, but PA, you said fusion, 2 becoming 1, so there's no individual. It's knock it off. Don't you throw my words back at me. The bottom line is that you are 2 different people with 2 different backgrounds coming together and trying to make a life together. And you know that you got jacked up people on your family, and she's got jacked up people on her family, and somewhere in the line, you got a little bit of jacked up in you too. And so when you're trying to bring all these people together, gets jacked up, and so you're not always going to be happy together. But working through that, understanding that, I love when he says that love becomes a verb instead of a noun. And it goes back to the exact same thing that I've been telling you for a long time. It is, love is a choice, not a feeling.
Amen.
Started as a feeling, worked its way into a choice. Are you with me?
Yep.
All right. So how realistic is it to hold out hope for that one romantic relationship that's going to stay full of passion and intimacy? Wow. All the women are going, have you seen the soap operas? Have you seen them?
Fairy tale.
What?
That's a fairy tale.
I know, but how many women do you think walk around expecting that?
All of them. And then we.
Excuse me? All of them?
And then we wake up and realize, oh man, it doesn't work that way. It takes work. We have to want to love him in order for it to work both ways, and vice versa.
So, do you think that when women find out that that's not reality, do you think that they become disappointed with their men?
Yes.
You better believe it.
And they exchange them, like, you can take it back to the receipt.
And that's why you didn't get received. Sorry? Yes. Yes.
I think defensiveness is a big deal. It's really wired into our psyche. As people, that's our protective.
Defensiveness?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go into a defensive mode. That's the way people are brought up anymore. It's just the way society is. Caring, what's that? Sensitivity, what's that? Do you know how to be sensitive? Do you know how to care? Probably more people are defensive more than anything.
And it goes back to my famous two. What's my famous two? No, some of you pay attention. Pride and selfishness. That goes back to the same thing. That carries all the way through the relationship. It's not just a matter of one aspect of the relationship. That carries the whole way through. In your sexual aspect of your relationship, in your mental aspect of your relationship, in your emotional aspect of your relationship, it all comes down to it. Some of us are all about, what is it about? It's what's in it for me? Why do I have to put any effort out? You should be taking care of me in every aspect of the relationship. And then it becomes a problem. And I think that, one romantic relationship that's going to stay full of passion and intimacy, come on. I mean, really, yes, when you're young and you have no kids, you're like bunny rabbits, right? You can drop trout anywhere and be creative and do whatever, you get all crazy. I get that, okay? I get that. As you get older and you start to have kids, oh no, Frank, I know better. As you get older and you have kids and you have responsibilities and you start to get older and you have aches and pains and you're working hard and you get tired and really women do get headaches. Not as much as they tell you, but they really do get headaches. And so do guys. How trippy is that for a guy to turn around and go, you know what, babe, I have a headache. She'd be like, he took my line. But the reality of it is he really does have a headache, And although some of you might think, I know that there's people out there, it's like, it doesn't matter what I feel, if I have a headache, if I'm sore, I can still have sex. It'll probably make me feel better, right? But the other person's like, it's not all about you. It's about taking the other person into consideration and understanding and being okay with the fact that it's not always there. It doesn't mean that they don't love you any less. It doesn't mean that they're not attracted to you any less. It just means that they got something going on. Guys have things going on in their heads, and sometimes they don't want to, if they're scared about something, did you guys have your baby? Finally? Congratulations. It's good to see you back. I'm sorry, I just came to mind. It's a guy thing. But, you know, to me, what was I saying? I know what I said about did you have your baby. What was I saying before that?
Scared.
What? Yeah, sometimes, thank you for paying attention. Sometimes, you know, if guys got something going on in their head, you know, we're the guy, we're supposed to keep everything in, we're supposed to handle business. We don't want to say stuff to scare you, the women. We don't want, you know, hey, you know, we just don't want to worry you about finances, we don't want to worry about our health, we don't want to, you know, you slam your leg in something, you know, you're bleeding all over. Alex, I'll use you as an example. You know, you drop a plate glass on your knee, cut your leg, expose your tendons and everything else. He's like, and he goes like, oh my God, we should go to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm fine. There's, you know, it's like it doesn't hurt. I can see your bones. She should go to the hospital. You know, I mean, and I get that. There's certain things we don't want them to worry, and we don't want. Of course, we don't want to look at it. It's like, oh my God, look at it. No, I don't want to look at it. I can't go past that one. There's things that we want to hold back. So, is it right to think that we should have that, you know, romantic relationship that's full of passion and intimacy, that's going to stay that way? No, but you know, you continue to move on together. Yes.
I disagree with that. Once the kids are gone and you're alone together, you can enjoy each other more.
No, I get that.
No, I mean physically, not just.
No, I get that. I get that. I'm not saying that it's not going to continue. I'm not saying it ends. I'm not trying to scare anybody. Oh God, I'm going to get old and then I'm done. But you know, there's things that happen. Is it always going to be that way? You know, are you always going to be that woman? No, not every day, not every week, not every month. There's periods of time that go by when things happen. Am I right?
But that's why we promote having date nights. You know, where if you have children, there's so much going on in life that you should take that one day, whether it's once a week or every other week. It's very important that you do take that time where you turn off the phones, go out to dinner, you know, hold hands, you know, do something.
I agree. Date night is very important. We encourage that.
Amen.
All right, so think about the relational habits promoted by our culture. Which ones have you noticed work against enduring love relationships? What does our culture show us against relationships?
Disposable.
Disposable like a razor, right? Use it until it's dull. Get rid of it. What else?
When it gets tough, get out.
When it gets tough, get out.
A lot of people don't invest in relationships.
Well, that would mean giving of yourself.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got no time for that.
Our culture tells us through movies and soap operas and music that if it's not hot and heavy all the time, that you don't have a relationship. And that is a lie. That is
That from the devil.
That's from the devil, yes, because that's Hollywood. It's like the sister said over there, it's a fantasy. So people have bought into this lie that if it's not hot and heavy every single day or every week, then something must be wrong. And yes, we should cultivate that, and we should make an effort to keep the romance alive in our marriage. However, you know, we need to be careful that we don't let that deceive us into thinking that we're no longer in love, because that's not true.
That's right. And I would ask you, is your entire relationship based on your sexual relationship?
Absolutely.
No. The answer would be no. I like your enthusiasm. No.
I miss being here, so I
It's
want to
not,
compensate.
well, I mean, because again, let's go the opposite end of the scale. God forbid a million times something happens to the man or to the woman that they're not even able to have sex. Does that mean you're done?
Right.
You leave them?
No.
Well, you can't have sex, and the relationship based on sex, and you can't have it, so you go and die alone. You know? Well, that's just not right. I wouldn't want to think in my head that if something happened to me, my wife's like, yeah, I left something in the microwave, and, you know.
I gotta go find that receipt.
Right. See if they give me at least 50% with no receipt, right? So, what about, you know, society works against us. It really does. I mean, everything that you watch, everything that you hear promotes promiscuity,
Casual relationships.
casual relationships, or moving on to something better, or doing something else. You know, it's just not right. But if you recall, Jesus tells us to love one another as he loved us. Are there standards and guidelines for relationships that come to mind? Well, I would tell you, you know, how about just going with the basic of love and respect? That promotes love. Love one another. Love your woman. Respect your man. And throw a little bit of each to each one of them as well. Respect the woman. Love the man. There's not a guy out there that doesn't want to be loved. He can't survive just on respect. Although respect may be his number one priority, his number one need, he still needs to be loved. We are not, even if it comes off as that way, we are not emotionless. We have emotion. We want to be loved. Let me ask you a question. Any of you have young sons? Or had young sons at one point?
Yeah.
Has any of your young sons, well, I'll use myself as an example. I can remember, and you know, most of you know I came up in a divorced house, but when my parents were together, when I was a young child, I remember as a young child laying across my mother's lap and her scratching my back. It was like a cat purring in a corner. It was, if I could have moved my leg, you know. It was the most heavenly thing, especially when they had nails, you know. It was just the best thing in the world. You could fall asleep like that. Don't think for 1 second that at 45 years old, your man won't lay across your lap and let you scratch his back. Okay? If you think I'm kidding, you know, ask your man and he'll back be like, please. You know, and all that means is we still have that need for love. That's not affection, that's not hot and heavy. It may lead to it, but that's not, you know, it's just, God, that's just something that is maternal, you know, for the woman, and a necessity for the man. Don't ever discount the small things, you know. What do you think typically keeps couples from practicing mutual submission in marriage, from always giving priority to the other person? So proud of you. So proud of you. That's the answer to every question, though. Well, it's pride selfishness, too. Pride selfishness. But it's true. I give you kudos for that. In Ephesians 5:21, we're told to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. What do you think it means in a marriage to practice mutual submission out of reverence for Christ? Now, I know he gave the example of standing out in the doorway and holding the door open and going, you first, you first, you first, you first, and never getting into the building. But what else do you think shows that mutual submission? Let's start off with the easiest of them. Going out to dinner. Where do you want to go? Wherever you want. No, let's go wherever you want. No, let's go. And you wind up not eating dinner because you talked for so long about where you want to go. Let's go anywhere you want. Okay, let's go to Sizzler. Well, what do you mean? You just said anywhere else. Yeah, but anywhere but that. Anywhere but that. Okay, then let's go to, what's the other that you would see in a relationship? Yes?
What about the guy going and opening your door for you in the car?
Okay. A man opening a door for a woman, that's kind of submitting. Yes? What else? Really? Nobody has any examples? Yes? Well, I'm sorry?
I think maybe putting that person's, not so much their needs, but I guess like their likes or their, to spend time with them, doing something that they like, even though it's weak, their interest, even though maybe we don't like to do it and we want to go down our nails or have a pedicure done, but it's, their turn.
I think that's a good point. I mean, let's look at movies. Guys, how many times have you watched a chick flick? I didn't ask if you liked it or not, because I'm not going to embarrass you. I just want to know how many of you have gone to see a chick flick. Okay? You go and see a chick flick because your wife's like, well, I really want to see that. Or, I would really like to see that. And you hear it for about 3 months, and then when it gets to the cheap theater, you're like, okay, fine. We'll go see it. We'll go see it. And the same thing, like Claudina really has a hard time with, we do Red Box a lot. Because I think going to the theater for that much money is ridiculous. Unless I get a gift card, then it's fine. It didn't cost me anything. But if you're going to get Red Box, like, okay, the one thing we can usually agree upon is something funny. But if I want to see, action, hang out, okay? And she'll be like, what girl doesn't like to see romantic chick flick, not a lot of them. So it's like, do you want to watch that? Yeah, I'll watch it. Be on my iPad during the movie. And the same way that she'll do the same thing. If I'm watching an action movie, she's watching her iPad or looking at her phone or doing whatever. But in a way, that's mutual submission, right? It can be as simple as that. Yes?
What we do is, he chooses, if it's a Ultimate Fighter, and then I say, okay, you watch that, and then I'll watch this. So we both sit through it, and it makes it a lot more fun because
So you do back-to-backs.
we do back-to-back.
All right, so that's like double feature.
Yeah, and so he got me on that.
Excellent, that's good.
She generally watches hers first so she can fall asleep.
Well,
I get that.
I know how to work it.
No one said she wasn't smart about it.
I know how to work it.
No, I got it. Somebody else? All right, we're going to move on. Mommy. All right, so look at where it says mileposts. It says we all crave that one romantic relationship that's going to endure, and though we believe it's possible for us, we often have doubts about actually attaining it. But in giving us the right foundation for an enduring relationship, Jesus teaches us to make love a verb based on his own example. And the biblical concept of lasting love, as modeled by Jesus, is one of mutual submission, where each of us gives priority to the other in our daily decisions and actions. If you want to be selfish, then selfishness has no place in a relationship. I'm sorry. And if you are not currently in a relationship, or you are currently in a relationship and you're struggling in some area, just go through those two things, pride and selfishness, and everything that you're going through will revert back to that. I don't care what it is. It's going to revert back to those two things. So I guess I would go and tell you, check yourself before you wreck yourself. You just need to keep yourself in check. If you want to move forward in our relationship, you are the priority. And those words might come easy or they might come hard, but it's not just throwing the words out there. It's actually doing it. Because it's easy. It's kind of like, and I say this too, it's easy to flap your lips and just throw words out there. It's kind of like when you give your life to Christ. God knows if you're just saying it and it doesn't mean anything, then you're really not saved. Because you just kind of repeat after me, okay. But if you say something and you mean it from your heart and you put actions behind the words, then it takes on a completely different meaning. And the other person can see that. And if you see the action that goes along with the words, then there's no denying that that happens. But in order to make love a verb, there's two 2 or 3 steps that you can take to demonstrate your decision to give first priority to your spouse. Okay? Today, the key scripture is the core dynamic behind love as a verb, which is expressed by Jesus. It says, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." You got to let those words motivate you to be proactive in loving your spouse as you take the cues from Jesus himself. Now, if you notice on your notes, I gave you some prep for next week. There's, I think, 5 days worth of prep. And I know you're thinking to yourself, gosh, man, does that mean I got homework to do? No. If, you don't want to do it, that's fine. You know I'm here Monday through Thursday for counseling when you're eventually going to need it. Okay? It's there if you want to use it. Believe me when I tell you, I have no desire to sit there and type out extra information for no apparent reason whatsoever. So if I think it's going to be a benefit to you, to all of us, I'm going to put it in there. So real quick, let me run through. Day 1, as your passage to focus on this week, it's Philippians 23:8, gives relationship guidelines rooted in the life example of Christ. Day 2 is Philippians 2:4. Day 3 is Philippians 2:5-7. Day 4 is Philippians 2 verse 8. And day 5 is Philippians 2:3-8. These are just things that you could do as a couple. It would probably take you all of 5 to 7 minutes to go through. And these are things that are, let me tell you this, that taking the time as a couple to do that is making love a verb. Because you're putting love into action by actually investing the time with your spouse or your significant other, or whatever you want to call it, at that point to invest in your relationship. Now, if your relationship is important to you, you make the time to do those things. I don't want to ever hear from somebody, "I'm too busy to do that." Because then I would turn around and tell you your priorities are out of whack. Okay? Well, I work too much. You need to look for another job, bro. Sis. Because your number one priority should be your spouse. Yep. Okay, I know. Isn't it God? Yes, we're not. God first, spouse. Okay? But you need to make sure that your priorities are in the right place. Don't ever come to me and tell me, "I work too much, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I'm too this, I'm too that." I know y'all are getting quiet. Please get strict with this. Some of you are like, some of you maybe not. But nonetheless, that's the first lesson for today. I want to remind all of you guys too that we came in late. We're going to the Storm game on August 29th. If you want to go, you need to go to the information center next door and purchase tickets. And some of you might say, "Well, I don't go to church, I just go to Fusion and I leave." No one will kidnap you if you walk in the doors and go to the information center. They don't come running up to you and go, "Oh my gosh, you have to go in the sanctuary now." You can walk into the information center and buy the tickets and walk out if that's what we encourage you to go to service, of course. But no one's here to force you to do anything. So, did you like the first session? Yes. Okay. Are you all awake now? Good. We're going to go into session 2. Alright. So, we're going to pass around the offering baskets. If you want something to go to Fusion, it's got to say Fusion on the envelope. If it doesn't say Fusion on the envelope, it goes to the church, which I'm okay with too. Also, prayer requests. Oh, and if you borrow pens, you can put them back into the offering bag. Don't use that as your offering because you didn't have the pen to give in the first place. Okay? Any other questions or comments or anything like that? No? Okay. If you're here for the first time, we have, we're thankful that you're here. Hopefully we left you with a good impression and you'll come back. If not, what the heck, I tried. All right. Hey, just got curiosity